Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
Hey, guys, is the market really headed for a correction, or do you think we're stuck? That's what we're going to talk about today. We have a couple articles where I think we might have some differing opinions from the people who wrote them and the economists, but I also don't know that we all agree on the information either. So when we jump right in, I'm kind of prefacing it because I think we're going to see this a couple different ways. I know you guys really well. You know me. The first thing we're going to go over is the U.S. real estate market headed for a correction, strategist says. This is from Business Insider. Now, we don't have Business Insider on the show a lot, and not for any particular reason, but this one specifically is talking about real estate. It is claiming we're headed for a correction. Here are the top three main takeaways. Number one, the real estate market could soon see a major leg down. Strategist Chris Vermeulen says, signals in construction activity are mirroring the period leading up to 2008 crash, and people don't realize real estate is primed and ready for another big major leg down. Okay.
All right.
Do you agree or disagree?
No.
Get into it. I already know.
You know, it's just, I love the way the article goes. It's talking about, you can see it right there, and it looks like it's going to be for single family residents regular. But then as it starts going down, it starts talking more about the actual the businesses, actual like
commercial,
commercial buildings. There you go.
Yeah, commercial.
So commercial, but we already know that 2020 did change that. It just changed the way people are doing business.
Yeah,
bigger companies they realize like people can still work at home and they can still do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
and I can attest to that because I see Dylan asleep all day, even though he's at work.
Sorry, Dylan.
No, he's got a job. It's a remote job. Yeah. So they ask him to be at work at least 2 days out of the week, and the next 3 are remote.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see a lot of that. And we're starting to see, more here in California also is like these big old office buildings. Now they're trying to convert them into like condos.
Yeah.
And things are changing.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing right out the bat is like there's definitely a separation between residential real estate and commercial real estate. The commercial collapse is probably something that is more worthy of this title than the residential.
Correct.
So I'm going to put my stake in the ground on that. There is an argument to be made for there being a plateau in residential. I'm going to come to that in a minute. But as for this, like, they're citing that construction starts for single and multifamily homes have plateaued. They're saying that. They haven't, though. We talked about it on the show last week or 2 weeks ago where single family permits are down, but multifamily permits are up, and they've been up for the last 3 years. And the last 3 years have had the highest record of permits pulled in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's going for a correction because we still have inventory problems on the residential side.
Correct.
So what I'm curious to see is that they said that over $900 billion of debt is maturing this year. How much of the debt is going to actually affect the local economies of those, commercial building spots?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think that's, something that a lot of people, I think, might not be really looking into, because if a lot of companies that are still operating in these commercial buildings, once they come mature and then they have to refinance, if they can't refinance them to something that makes sense, a lot of those businesses are either going to go out of business or have to struggle throughout the changes in that commercial loan.
They'll trim the P&L. They're going to trim their budget, which usually means people.
Yeah.
People or places. Typically, your most expensive things are going to be the place you have and the people that are there, and then associated costs like benefits and things like that. But in the $900 billion, first of all, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Number one, most of that, it's all commercial debt. So in that part of the article here, we're talking about commercial debt specifically. And again, the comparison to commercial debt to mortgage debt is like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a massive shift, not just because of like the shutdown and people staying at home and buying things online. There's a massive amount of consumer attention and dollar that is buying online that doesn't even go to the retail store anymore.
Yeah.
That you can but get your groceries online now. You can have DoorDash come to your house. You can go to the grocery store and pre-order and then have them bring it out to your car in the parking lot. So there's definitely a case to be made to, like, let's say, sound the alarm for a commercial collapse. But the conversion of that commercial real estate, I think, is going to be the next big thing to happen, because with an inventory like suffering on the residential side, but then available square footage that can be made into something else on commercial, that might be a good fit, if you will, to solve one problem by fixing another.
Yeah. And we're already starting to see that. Even malls are being turned into condos. I know that in San Diego, Hornet Plaza, that's one consideration that's happening.
And I don't think you know this, but my brother-in-law is actually working on that project. He does air balancing.
Okay.
And part of that is actually going to be research labs. So they're converting it for a different type of business. So it's still commercial in a sense, but it's not the retail commercial. And again, that's retail business that people have taken online.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even tell you guys the last time I went to a store to buy like a pair of pants or anything. Like it's
I know.
Yeah, everything's ordered online nowadays.
yeah, I mean, okay, maybe I'll go to Kohl's, but we're next to a Kohl's.
Yeah.
There's one right like on our way to and from work every gosh darn day.
Yeah.
That's not the truth. That's not the case for everybody. The retail stores are really hurting.
No, it's really hurting where it's saying right here, commercial real estate foreclosures jumped 117% year over year in just the first quarter, according to data from Autumn. That's crazy. 117%.
That's a lot, and
That's
it's not
just
over.
nuts.
That's not over. People are going to have
Yeah.
to trim that from somewhere else. The commercial refinancing part has a lot to do. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. From talking to a couple of my business banker friends, they're trying to get their SBA clients refinance as fast as possible. The problem is that's connected with where we're at as far as the rate environment now. So they're having some of the same problems we are when it comes to the level of rates connected to loans. And these companies that maybe had an SBA at let's say 3 and now it's 7, it's a huge
It's a big
difference
difference
on millions of dollars. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, are we for a correction? I feel like we should.
Well, one of the things that I was talking to Andy on the last show is like, well, how high can we keep going? Like, there has to be a ceiling. There has to be a point where it doesn't crash, but it dips or corrects itself to something that, is a little bit more understandable than right now.
Understandable, affordable, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be the key word right there. But yes, we are due. We are due for some type of correction. It's just we really haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's hard to make a case that there's a correction around the corner because we've also been talking about how many investors are entering the market and how quicker investors are to deal sometimes than the consumer themselves. Like we have people that are approved to buy a house and they're getting outbid by someone else who's either there quicker or can do the terms better than the person who's got the VA loan or even the conventional loan. And I think the investment part of this, in the article, they're saying that the investors are actually part of what could spark a sell-off, which then would create a crash. But again, that is only one segment of the market.
Yeah.
The majority of residential real estate is not investor owned. It is owned by the people that own it.
Correct.
It's by the people that are living in it.
Homeowners still sit on the highest levels of equity ever.
And even if you had investors, I'm going to say flood the market. I used this number in a show last week, which was in quarter 1 of 2024, there were 44,000 investor purchases. So in the first 3 months of the year, we had 44,000 investor purchases.
Wow.
Okay. Well, even if let's just say half aren't going to come to the market tomorrow. Let's just say half of them did, 22,000. That means then on average, maybe 88,000 would come on to the market this year. Does that solve our inventory problems?
Not at all.
No.
Like, did 88,000 homes solve our problem between now and the end of the year? It doesn't.
It's
and
a little
so
dent.
even if half, which is an unghastly amount, came to the market, it's not going to fix it.
Yeah.
So I think that does warrant that we're going to have prices stuck. There is no crash around the corner in residential. People are still, there's more demand than there is supply. People, I think, are getting cold feet because of the rates, and the affordability is an obvious issue. But I don't think investors are running to sell their to sell their portfolios.
Yeah.
We don't see it happening yet.
Again, I mean, I'm glad that he did bring about upon this article, because people have to also know that the business side will affect the residential side.
Yes,
And so-
absolutely.
And that's why I brought it up, because if like those people that get like either lose their jobs or they got to get cut because now the P&L needs to get cut, well, that directly affects the pocket that they're paying for their
Correct.
bills at
Exactly.
home, their mortgage and stuff, and then that causes a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to get at, like what snowball effect is going to come from that? Because one domino falls and the other one falls, and little by little they start
Yeah.
falling.
And that's 900 billion.
Yeah.
That's just in this maturing this year. The following year,
There's another I don't know how much billions or millions there is.
We'll know then.
Another basket. Yeah.
Stay
crystal
tuned.
ball.
Yeah, I don't know what it is next year either, but great.
There's another maturity year coming.
Exactly.
Great
Somebody
point.
matures every year. We mature.
Every year on the 13th of December for me.
No, great.
You need a lot of maturing there. Bud.
So, do you guys think that
Touché.
if we're not racing towards a correction, do you think, because first of all, leg down is literally like coincides with a correction, like on a chart graph, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about leg up, leg down, and there's like an equivalence to that. I don't think we're gonna have a leg down. I think we might have plateauing happening. I guess that's the best way for me to describe it without drawing it on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
Is I'm sure there's gonna be some plateau happen in 24 or 25 and then 26 maybe. I don't think that correction is it. That's
But
kinda,
we already seen that. things are plateauing, even though with the limited supply of homes that we have in San Diego right now, and actually in some states because of the abnormal high interest rate environment right now is actually making people kind of like, hey, kind of sit on the fence, right? So we are starting to see a little more inventory.
Yeah.
We are starting to see a lot more price reductions.
Yeah.
I believe this month was one of the slowest months in home purchases since 2001.
Yeah.
You know, so
it was. That's actually coming up in one of the other articles. So you're right, because again, some of those variables, they don't jive together to say, oh, okay, well, it's going to skyrocket forever. Well, it's not going to skyrocket forever, but also it's not careening towards towards.
And
Earth
again, let's be realistic. The reason for the price reductions, guys, is not just because the property was set at the right proper price.
Right.
No, usually what a sender's tendency is I'm going to put my house, I think it's worth $1 million.
Yeah.
Just because the neighbor, and you always think that your house is best than the neighbor. So they put it, and really who predicts that price is the next buyer.
Right.
The market does.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, so also remember, for those of you who are watching us maybe for the first time or newer to us, sometimes price reductions are in concession for giving up something else. Oh, your roof needs half the roof needs to be replaced. Okay, well, instead of giving you $10,000 to replace it, I'll give you a price reduction of $5,000 or $10,000. So sometimes the price reduction is connected to something else that's inside the deal. That isn't because the house isn't worth that. It's that there's something else that's being worked on inside the escrow process that means that outcome is a lower price.
That's a great
so
point.
just a caveat there. It's not always like that someone's overpaying. It's not always that. Yeah. That may or may not be a real example I talked to someone about this week.
All right.
We're going to move on because this is all going to kind of go together, guys. The housing market is stuck until at least 2026, Bank of America warns. Now, again, very infrequently to the show, CNN. CNN has a lot of other things they're talking about right now, not related to real estate, but Brian found this article, and we have Bank of America to thank for this. The mortgage rate of people who already own is historically low, and the rate for new buyers is elevated. Bank of America doesn't think that gap will shrink much for years.
Yeah.
So, guys, this economist is warning that we're stuck, and he's not convinced it will become unstuck until 2026. What's your hot take right out the bat?
I honestly, I was in line with what they were saying here because of everything that they mentioned as far as, the inventory, the lock-in effect, and then just in general, people wanting to sell. But then again, if I sell, I'm coming at a higher price for my monthly mortgage payment. That doesn't really seem fit for me, so I'd rather just stay fit. Now, one of the things that I have been talking about, and it highlights it here, is that first-time homebuyers are the ones that get, unfortunately, screwed over the most because they're not coming in with equity from their past sale of their house. They literally have their savings, and if that's not enough, then hey, they're capped out or beat out by somebody that has that equity or is transferring over that that proceeds from the sale, or they just have more income to be able to battle it out on the bidding wars. But I honestly think in sense of all this, I think it's right in line with what I feel like slowly things are going to start coming to an ease.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No,
2026?
absolutely. 2026. Based on everything that's going, of course, we're not going to build that fast. Our problem is supply again.
Yeah.
We're not going to build that fast. So I don't think by 2026 we're going to build that quick anyways.
And I mean, it says right there, supply of homes simply cannot keep up with demand. Prices have had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment, but there's also a stopping point there too, because how many times have we routinely talked on here about affordability? Yeah. So if there are less and less people able to afford, then at some point the amount of people who still can afford and the amount of demand we have with inventory, they have to match up. Yeah. Because it's not like we have affordability surplus.
No.
That's not happening. So there's got to be, or I guess I'm saying there's probably some sort of sweet spot in here somewhere where the amount of people that can afford will be matched with the amount of inventory that's available to them.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is yet, but we must be careening closer to that.
Yeah.
And it's actually only going to get closer when rates go down, because then that means affordability can come back up. And
again, you guys remember September? We started to hear crickets. It was tough last year, September. October was like, what the heck happened?
Yeah.
November was also pretty, and then December, all of a sudden, boom, we started picking up towards the end of November and then December, right? But they only held the rates that high for like that month.
Yeah.
Right now, we've been longer. So we've been seeing now, because the rates are higher, if we notice on our supply of homes, we actually have more homes available right now.
Yes.
And so I think that's also could be a good strategy for our government to do, the Fed government to hold on to that just because like let's get more inventory. But as soon as rates go down 1% we're going to start seeing these homes start kind of flying off the shelves again.
It's going to be enough for people to say, hey, that 1% is good enough for me. I can afford that payment now.
Yeah, because that 1% could be anywhere from $300 to $600.
Well, it's the same problem that exists for, let's say, people who can meet the affordability test and are first-time home buyers. It's a similar challenge for those who already own a home. It's like, I'm going to sell this place, but there's not a lot of inventory for me to go choose from to move to the one I want to move to, unless you're moving, like literally moving from another state.
Because, you know, a lot of times before when you used to sell your home, you would sell your home and you know you can move up to a bigger home.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was considered step up in basis, but right now it's like you can't even consider that. Like you think you're doing a step up a basis, but you're not. You're just transferring exactly, and you're transferring to a higher payment.
Yeah, the move up buyer market is tough unless you're making like a big stretch, or you have a lot of equity over here that's going into the new thing. It is not as easy as a stretch for people now than it was just a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I think we nailed it on the nail on the head when we said situational transactions was going to be what's literally like uptaking the market, because I see a lot of people that have to move because they can't pay for it anymore. They're moving out of state. Their life requires it. The rent doesn't make sense, and they rather pay a higher payment in the mortgage because rent is equally the same. And a lot of people are divorcing. People splitting up. They need to repair. So a lot of this stuff is happening situationally, but it's not like before where it's like, I want a new house. It feels like I get it. Let's go out and shop.
Yeah.
It's not. You don't have that leisure to go out and shop for a house no more. It's more like, hey, well, this is my situation right now. Yeah, I could buy it, or hey, I have to stay put.
Exactly.
Until,
well, we have a client that we talked about, actually somebody that's in the same industry. He's a realtor here, and he decided to put his house on the market.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna make like 200 and change, and now he's moving, I believe, South Carolina or North Carolina.
South Carolina.
And buying a 3,400 square feet. We're here. It's in Santee. It's like a 1,300 square feet. Now he's buying a 5-bedroom, 5-bath home, which is much larger. Put that nice chunk of down payment and really finance
300, 250.
If that. So his payment is going to be lower. We have another client that's PCS, and she's selling her condo here in Eastlake, for 600 and change. Going to Tennessee, buying for 330, and it's a 2,900 square foot home.
Dang, what?
Yeah.
So those are the things that we are seeing, and then again, And
it was crazy because on last week's episode, we talked about the incomes that are needed to buy a house in, each state. And you'd be surprised how all of them are nearly close to 100,000. But it makes sense. If I'm going to be, if I'm going to be making the same income, I'd rather go somewhere where my payment's going to be lower so I could keep as much of my money and, be able to, still freely live my life instead of, just literally having handcuffs to paying my freaking house and just working to live here in California. Yeah, the weather's great, but I have no opportunity.
Here's a comparison. $3,300 on a condo here. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, right? HOA and everything. It's like $3,400. She's going to go buy a 2,900 square foot home. It's actually a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath. And it's $2,300. Property taxes, insurance, and everything.
All in?
All in.
Dude. Wow.
It just logically makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, to some people, right?
Yeah. And then the people that obviously they want to stay here in California, well, what California brings, and how things are. Like, it sucks, but
sunshine, less rain.
Yeah. So
like 5 jobs.
So I think in general, the consensus I'm hearing is, okay, so maybe they're right that the housing market is stuck, but what we're talking about in real life examples is people like migrating. They're just going somewhere else. Like, hey, I'm going to take this situation I can do, and it's just going to be somewhere else. It isn't necessarily solving inventory problems here, because that's one place coming back on the market. That's fine. Someone will step in and buy that place, and it's one house off the market in Tennessee. That's fine. That's a one-off right there in that situation. But I think probably what the growing sense I'm starting to hear from you guys and kind of watch and read is that everyone feels like that it's coming to a point. It's coming to a head where, all right, something's going to have to shift because rates have remained elevated. Home prices still continue to go up. I think quarter one we were talking about home prices year over year are up 6.3% or something like that. I was like,
crazy.
Okay, so they're up. They're up. They're up.
Get off the fence.
Yeah, and so if rates are not going to go down until maybe only one time this year from the Fed, and then maybe in 2025 a couple of times.
Who knows?
I think we're stuck. But that doesn't mean that people aren't doing transactions, because people are still moving. They're PCSing. They're buying investment places. They're doing ADUs. So, it's weird to say that it's kind of stuck, but also know how crazy busy it is around here.
Yeah.
It's this weird dichotomy.
Like a paradox.
Yeah, it's a paradox. Yeah, because you're like, oh, yeah, the market is quote-unquote stuck. You're like, why are we so goddamn busy? Like, every freaking day. It's nuts. It's not like at the edge of chaos, but I kind of feel like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
No, it's what it is.
It's like you feel like you're sprinting but going nowhere.
Yeah.
So-
Sometimes, there you go.
Hey, we got
You're spinning a treadmill.
the treadmill. Mortgage,
I'm gonna get it.
No, I'm
mortgage,
not gonna get it.
mortgage
Never got
treadmill.
it.
Mortgage treadmill. So you were talking a minute ago about how pending home sales fell in May to a record low. So yes, since this began being tracked by the National Association of Realtors back in 2001. That's what it is. So pending home sales fell in May to a record low, according to data released on Thursday. Pending sales tracked by National Association of Realtors since 2001 are forward-looking gauge on home sales that measure contract signings.
Yeah.
So that is, I'd say, maybe one of the most stark warnings of, hey, there's maybe a problem and a slowdown for sure as far as volume of homes changing, not prices, but that pending home sales are the lowest that they've been since it started in 2001. That's
Let's think about this. March is when rates started going up. So we've been through it March, April, May, June.
Yep.
And there's no letdown, It's like this is the longest I've seen that we're staying in that, mid sixes, low sevens interest rate for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, last week PCE core readings and inflation data came in, right at what they expected,
right at target.
and we haven't
Thank
really
goodness.
seen much. So we'll see how that goes into the following weeks as well as we digest.
And again, that's thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that
no,
happened.
of course, any negative or positive negative information that it's going up, it would have been detrimental to the
Yeah,
rates.
big time.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think here that, we, and I don't know if we said it so easily before, but, starter homes have doubled in value. And that just not, people can't keep up with that.
No.
Unless your income is kept up with that, then the price of entry to get into real estate is higher.
Yeah.
And by a substantial amount. And I'm starting to see more people on social media talking about this too. I saw the well, I don't know if it's viral or not, but I saw it like 3 different times in the same day where this guy is it's a basically green screen to him and his Walmart order online. He's talking about, 4 years ago my Walmart order was like $114 or something, and now it's like $420 or whatever.
Oh.
And
I've seen that with the Costco guy.
Maybe it was 146,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I don't know. It was
yeah.
like in the $100 range, and then it was like $400 range. He's like, I literally had a cart saved, and I just repurchased all the same things, and like the price was like 3 times as much for all the same items.
That's pretty crazy.
And it's regular grocery stuff like cereal and milk and eggs and some Cheetos and whatever.
Yeah. We bought toilet paper. It was like $25. I'm like, dang, that's some good stuff.
Hey, two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Super
you're
wipe.
buying that. You're buying that rich person toilet paper, man.
No,
The plebeian toilet paper is $18.
Hey, everybody gets a wet rag.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, geez.
That's
Right,
gross.
Yeah.
So don't give up the dream is, I think, the takeaway from the article. Even though they said it's going to be stuck, they're also trying to argue don't give up the dream. And here's what I wanted to say on this part is, the reason why is because someone's going to buy that house. Someone's going to buy the inventory. If you're trying to get into a home, it might as well be you. Might as well be you, and me. Go get more homes.
You.
Because again, if we're thinking long view on this and we're looking at these things existing longer than us and being part of our legacy plan, then someone's going to buy that house.
Exactly.
Might as well be us.
I agree. Dang, what's next here? Okay.
Ooh, you guys, fun times. Here's how bad housing affordability is from CNBC.
I like that.
Prices in April rose 6.3% compared with April 2023, so we're up 6.3%. This is from the S&P CoreLogic, so one of my favorite people, the CoreLogic folks. Home prices are now 47% higher than they were in early 2020, with the median sales price now 5 times the median household income. Ouch, that hurts. Half of all renter households, more than 22 million. Wow. Spent more than 30% of their income on housing this year, which is considered cost burdened.
Yeah, some people are, just by owning a home with that 6.3, it's like they're making just as much income, just having a home than going to work.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right? Especially if they bought a home that,
I
it's
think
worth now $700. They bought it probably like at $200-$300. It's like, think about that now.
Yeah.
$700
that's
times
like
6.3.
That's like $42,000.
That's
your
kinda,
house is getting more job pay raises than you yourself are. So might as well just keep paying your house down.
Yeah, because some areas are even getting like 10-12%.
Those
It's
are bonuses.
crazy.
I know,
Well,
right?
I think
10% bonus.
the year-over-year reading, I don't remember what month it is we did it on the show, but like the San Diego one was like 11.3. And I was like, wow, year-over-year, San Diego back up 11.3 since 2023 at the same month.
Yeah.
And like that's great. That's wonderful actually for the whole region. But again, that's hard. If you could afford at the 2023 price,
Yeah.
and you can't in the 2024. Well, shoot, you were in the game and now you're on the sidelines.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You may have all this equity, but a lot of people, again, we go back to affordability because the rates are there. You can't even touch it.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't do anything with it. Yeah. But they should.
And then they're like, well, wait a minute. I got up to 500,000 because I married capital gains, but some of these people are making 800, 700,000. And it's like now they have to pay capital gains on that.
On the
the
different- yeah.
remainder balance, you know?
Yeah. And I think we've tried to advocate pretty regularly here for putting stale money to work or stale equity to work, whether that's upgrading your house, modernizing your house, working on your yard, adding a room, building a second story, building an ADU or a junior ADU, garage conversion. So, we've talked plenty enough about what you can do if you have a lot of equity and you're stuck. And maybe you actually own a house and you can't afford the move up house. So we talked in the segment ago, like the move up market is, I'll say dead. It's not really dead, but it's mostly dead. But maybe using some of that equity in your house right now is the right way to go.
Yeah, no, exactly. And what's crazy about this is appreciation is going up and the interest rates are going up. That tells you right there that this is pretty crazy to see that. Because normally when rates go up, your property values go down.
Yeah.
So it's like, when have we seen this? Right? Like this is just crazy.
Yeah, I think this whole thing is underpinned by inventory.
Yeah. And so I do believe, affordability is really, really bad. The last couple of months, we've been seeing that. You have to get creative. You have to try to figure out certain things, what to do in order to get them to qualify. And sometimes they think that a consumer will come in, I want to qualify for X amount, but you can't.
No.
You'll have to pay certain things down. You'll have to go and ask for a pay raise. There's certain things that we're requesting for people, our consumers, to do more of nowadays than we did before.
Yeah.
And even with the people that are earning high incomes, I mean, there's still their debt to income ratios. You're still making, six figures, but your debt to income ratio and the debt that you're paying monthly is eating away at your purchase power.
Yeah.
So you're making, good amount of money, but you're also paying out a lot. And that puts a strain on what you can afford or not. And if you're on one single income, it's going to be even more tough. You unfortunately do need, a double or maybe even a triple. Income, depending on where you're buying or, what you want to get into.
Side hustles are real.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially if you're trying to accomplish something financially, whether it is paying off your debt or just paying off your debt to pay it off, or paying it off so you can increase your debt to income ratio, make it healthier, get qualified for more. This episode's going to come out in July, first week of July. So, what is it you guys think are going to happen? What's going to happen this summer? I mean, we're in the summer season. Like, this is summer buying season.
Yeah.
What do you think what's this going to mean?
I mean, there hasn't been, usually in the past years, we see a lot of momentum. Right after, it's like March, kind of, people are still kind of going. April, we start seeing that momentum. People are just going. It hasn't felt like that.
And I know part of it around here is people moving schools. Like, I'm in this district, or my kid's going to junior high or high school. We're going to move to a new neighborhood before they go to the new school, whatever, or they want to go to a specific school. That's traditionally something that we can usually have projections for. Like a certain percentage of deals are going to be like this for that reason. Yeah. I haven't really heard a lot of that this year.
No, because it's different.
I think, again, it goes with the situational transactions of people that, if they need to move, they'll move. But if there's nothing that needs to be fixed, then right now they're like, hey, I'd rather not even touch my, my payment. I'm good where I'm at. We can hold it off another year. Yeah. But those people that already were basically in the motive of wanting to sell, they were just waiting for things to clear up. They're going to still transact, but it's not going to be at the levels that were before. There's still going to be, some sort of transactions, but it's not going to be at the levels that we've used to for summers. But,
well, no, of course. Again, affordability is crazy. Like, okay, how often do you get a pay raise?
Well, every year depend. I mean, for some people, it's every year or maybe every 3 years.
Yeah, there's some people. I mean, I was just on the treadmill 2 days ago, and my buddy works with Amazon as a truck driver, and they always load everything as much as they can, just load. He's like, I'm not getting paid any extra, and so they're like, hey, no problem. They ended up promoting him a couple months, but they're not paying him for a promotion. So it's like, well,
interesting.
What's going on, right? So it's not like you're getting the promotion. A lot of times you're getting promoted to a kind of higher level, but the income doesn't follow.
So he got a promotion in job title, but not in years, but not.
Just got more responsibility.
No. He's been there for a little over a year and a half, so I don't think it's going to be a year. It's just going to be probably in performance, what have you. But what I'm going with this is, we don't get pay raises as often when we work for a corporation. Usually it's going
Yeah.
to be a year, 2 years later, and if it is, it's going to be a low amount, maybe 1 point some percent. Some people get lucky with 3-4%. But when you're talking with this article here, and it says that home prices are now 47% higher
Yeah.
than they were in early 2020. How do you keep up with that if your income is not going up? Of course, here's the bad housing affordability.
Yeah. Median sales price now 5 times the median household income, according to study.
So
The math isn't mathing.
That's a huge
the
gap.
math isn't matching.
That's a huge
That's
gap.
where we're at. But
you
those
know-
are the realities,
yeah.
guys. That's just what it is. And, we talked earlier about 2026. Yes, it's going to take some time before we start seeing some type of relief come in.
Yeah, and this is unfortunately bad news for renters as well, because you have it just goes down the line, right? So if the cost of acquiring real estate is higher for an investor and they're going to rent that house out, I mean, how often do we see rents go up? Every year,
Yeah.
right? You get a brand new lease or a lease extension. Well, in San Diego, I can go up this amount every single year, and people are doing that. So there's a crunch happening, even if you aren't on the ownership side. It's just that shelter affordability is now wildly, I'll say, out of control, for lack of a better explanation. But you saw what they say here. They said half of the renter households. They said 12 million of those households spend more than half their income on rent.
Yeah.
Can you imagine dumping 50% of your money every month just to your rent? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. There's also here for homeowners, 20 million are considered cost burden by their monthly payments.
So I saw that and I was like, I don't know what they mean by cost burdened. Like
Everything's
what I
up.
think about it more than once a week. I don't know what that means. But
yeah, for me, I'm just thinking like they're just having a difficult time even making their mortgage payments when I'm taking 20 million of those
Yeah.
people,
yeah. Well, and think about how many people. But think about the antithesis of that. Think about how many people that have a 3% rate where they're not cost burdened could be because of that, right? So I understand the idea. I'm just saying, what's the definition of cost burden, really?
I'm just thinking just with everything. Now you go to hamburger, get a hamburger. It's like $20
here we go.
an hour.
Here
Here
we
we go,
go.
right? Like
Here we go.
the dollar menu and the value menu aren't there anymore. It's
frickin'
$20,
inflation
right?
menu.
So it's inflation. So I think they're burdened, and we do feel it. You feel it in everything that you do. Everything's just so burning.
Arizona
cost
iced
burden.
tea used to be 99 cents. Now it's pushing 150.
Dude, hey, you remember they
Really?
used to actually? They
Yeah,
used to
I know, it
actually-
used to be.
They used to put it on the can. The
Yeah,
can,
99 cents.
The can used to say
And
99.
you knew
Oh,
if somebody
yeah.
was upcharging it, you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That happened.
put a little mortgage to your
what's
I'm
the,
sorry.
what's the brand that's closing? Is it Dollar Tree or the Dollar
Dollar-
Store?
no,
or
99
cents.
store?
99 cents closed.
99 cents closing, and then I know. So it's the other one, Dollar Tree. There's a Dollar
Yeah.
Tree not too far from us.
Dollar Tree, Dollar General.
Everything's $1.25.
It was cool. I heard one of the Jibba guys, the prank caller Jibba, and he calls a $1.99 store, and he's all like, "What do you guys have in there? We have the cases of Q-tips. You got to get. Can you tell me what the cost for that is?" $1. Okay. Do you sell toothbrushes with toothpaste? Yeah, we also have that. What's the cost of that?
How much is that?
$1. Okay. If I was to buy five of them, it was the best thing.
That's
ever.
hilarious.
It was hilarious.
Well, you guys, I had asked you a couple minutes ago what you thought would happen this summer, and I'm going to make a prediction for myself in this new segment, which is because supply is growing through the spring. I think we're going to have a better summer than 2023, but there's the asterisk. I think that it will be slower pending inventory. I think that May, slowest in pending inventory or pending sales since 2001. I think it's going to be the second slowest in June and second slowest in July.
All right.
I think those are going to be 3 in a row, and our summer will be slow, even though there'll be more sales this summer than there were last summer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I just don't think the price cuts isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
Inventory's got to show up, but affordability is just killing people.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. So.
I do agree with that.
Okay, guys, home price beginning to cool as active listings jump 35%. This is also from CNBC. For the 4 weeks ending June 23rd, the typical home sold for slightly less than its asking price. A little less than 2/3 of homes sold over asking price in the last month, but that is the lowest share since June of 2020. And annual home price growth, they say slipped to 4.6% from 5.3. That's still positive.
Yeah,
So
hello.
Just in case you're
Still making money.
taking notes at home, which is the slowest growth rate in 7 months. Like, I don't think that's anything to freak out about. It's still positive, and it's still positive 0.4. It's not like it went from 5.3 to 0.3.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Are you guys seeing home prices cool? I'm seeing some price reductions, but they're at the higher price ranges, not in the, I'll say, San Diego entry level. Let's say it's not going from 750 to 725.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing 1.3 to 1.250.
Yeah.
At least around here for San Diego, anywhere between I want to say 600 to maybe even 800,000. I still see people bidding over to be able to get credits and to be able to get better terms, and that's right there, the sweet spot of where everybody's trying to get into their starter home to their their second tiered home. And once you start pushing those higher levels, once you go into jumbo or non-conforming, then prices get really just unaffordable. You just start seeing a mortgage payment of $669, close to $7,000. You're kind of like, I don't know if I want to pay that. But one of the things that I did like about this article is that, consumers and people that aren't in real estate don't really know how the market is really going. So right here it says some buyers think they can get a deal because they're hearing that the market is cool. Some sellers think every home will sell for top dollar no matter the condition. And although there is truth to those, to those comments, it's in certain micro markets and areas that are dependent on what the competition is in those areas. Now, unfortunately, here in San Diego, it's still very hot, and you really need to have a strong offer. You need to be very strongly approved to be able to have, a good opportunity of getting your offer accepted. But I just think it's case by case everywhere you go. And all the articles that we've been seeing have been kind of contradicting each other. One says the market's stuck, but then the other one says, oh no, market's going to come down. Then home prices are up, and then home prices are cooling. So I feel there's a huge combination of a whole bunch of point of views that we hope that's going to happen, but we're steadily seeing that prices aren't going to drop the way that we want.
They're talking about, nationwide too. So who knows where they grab this information from? It could have been Tennessee. So,
it's not,
right. It could have been Tennessee, but you're absolutely right. Every micro market has its own strengths and weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. Here, I've seen a couple of my clients, they want to kind of go with that tactic, and then they lost out. Somebody else came in, they took advantage of it, and now they're closing. And our client's like, dang, I should have just gone and listened to the realtor and put the offer in there, of what it should have been. Just to put it in perspective, it was a house that was listed for $990, right? So we didn't think it was going to go for any higher. So I contacted the listing agent, and I said, what if we were to put an offer in for $1,020,000 with no appraisal contingency? Well, she says, you're one of the lowest offers.
Jeez, at $1,020,000?
$1,020,000.
Dude,
that's ridiculous.
$30,000 higher, no contingency. And then client, nope, I'm just not going to do it. I don't think I'm going to call it a bluff. The value came in at 1.15.
What?
Yes, 1.15.
So they were low. So they were higher than the list price and still $100,000 and change off of the
exactly. So some realtors are using that tactic to encourage more buyers to come and look at that and put their highest and best offer.
Dang, dude.
So
dang.
I'm like, that property went up $160,000 higher than what they had it listed.
So where do you think? Okay, so I'm listening to you guys talk about this, and I was thinking about this specifically for this article to show, where I feel like we're close to. I feel like we're close to a place in the market price wise where sellers are running up against buyers' tolerance, not their ability even. There are some people that we know who could be buying homes right now and they're not, and they're like, you know what? I'm not paying $1.25 million for that house next door. That's the same one I'm renting for, let's say, $4,000 a month. I'm not going to go buy that one and pay $6,500 because it still needs $100,000 of modernization. It's 25 years old. No one's touched it. So that's a tolerance act right there.
Yeah.
That's not them saying, "Oh, I can't afford it." There's I don't want to. So is that just me? Do you guys feel like maybe some buyers are acting that way? Not with an attitude, but just kind of you know what? I'm not doing that.
Well, I think it's the perspective that they look at it like, if I'm paying this much for this and it's like that, I don't want it. I'd rather have something that's brand new, ready to go if I'm going to be wasting this much more, not wasting, but investing this much money into, a house. And if it still needs $100,000, I'm barely coming up with my down payment.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to be able to
Okay, so I have a
modernized house?
I have a live example. My curiosity was getting the best of me the other day. Maybe not the best of me. It was peaked.
The best of you.
Oh, it was really peaked. I was looking at this place out in East County. It had some land. I think I told you about this one.
Okay.
And it has room to build ADUs. It does need some upgrading and modernization. It's listed for $1.25 million. Okay. And then I saw a house that's here in Bonita that has a half an acre yard, not like 3 acre, half an acre yard that has been completely remodeled, like to the T, like to the nines, you guys.
Yeah.
Like real beautiful, probably a couple $100,000, listed for 1.3.
Okay.
Now, if you can afford and you're buying at 1.3, which one are you buying? The one that's done or the one that needs to work?
Well, again, it depends on the area too, right?
I guess for purposes of just looking at it like that, I would go with the brand new one because it's both the same, technically the same price. Why am I going to go and have to then put more
Add
money
more.
into one
Correct.
if one's already ready to go?
Right. So-
Logically, I mean, that's how you would look at it, right?
Yeah.
So part of what I think is the kind of maybe part B of this whole like sellers are up against buyer tolerance is like sellers are going to eventually have to face the condition of their home when buyers who can afford to buy it say, I won't buy it like that. And I think when you see these, I brought these two examples because this one in Bonita is like to the nines, you guys.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's at the same market price as this one. It's a different city, and it's not that far away. It's like 15
Yeah.
minutes away. It's not 4 hours. It's 15 minutes away. And it has more land, but the house needs work. Same price. I think people are going to go to the nice house in Bonita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly do because it's already the way I want it to be. And if I'm going to spend $8,000 a month, $7,500 a month on housing payment, it's going to be on the one that I really love.
I'd rather have that than deplete my savings or deplete anything and finance it.
Yeah.
Right,
that-
than get into the property and then having to find another loan to finance for the repairs or to bring it to up to par where you want it.
Right.
But in that same scenario, if there's a particular person that enjoys doing that, or they want to look at it like a project for themselves, then there's a house for everybody. Like you said, someone's gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone's going to buy both these
regardless if
places,
that person
right.
goes and buys over there. That house is fine. It's gonna get bought.
Yeah,
don't
I-
worry. You got people coming to you.
And I understand that my example, you're being
No.
really nice, and my examples are really not really comparative to the same buyer. The person who wants a place in Bonita is not looking at the one in El Cajon.
No,
I know
but the
they're not.
comparison, it could be another house down the street in Bonita, and it's the exact same thing.
It could be. I understand. And I was just using two examples I was actually looking at, and I was like, these are really two. They're at the same price point. Like, man, these are two very different listings.
Yeah.
The age of the home. Check this out. The age of the home is actually the same. Like they're in the
Yeah.
same. They're in like the same window, but this one completely modernized and redone, and this one needs a lot of upkeep, a lot of modernization. So
Yeah.
I think sellers are potentially. Some of them are potentially in the pickle.
Do I buy the Tesla or the Pinto? I'm trying to make the Pinto look like a Tesla, right?
Wait, what's a Pinto?
You know what I was actually thinking?
That old car?
I was actually thinking the place in Bonita has room for 1 ADU, but the one in El Cajon has like 3 acres and a massive like flat
Dang.
already leveled space. I'm like, okay,
you go.
that's got like dollar signs on it.
And
so
rattlesnakes.
cash flow from
And spiders.
And
the one in Bonita looks like that's where
bears.
I'd move, and like the one in El Cajon's like that's where I'd put a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Like that would be a good like.
I'm
cash flow
going. I'm
place,
going
so.
to Bonita.
You're going. I know you're going
Yeah.
to Bonita. I already knew that. This place had like gold fixtures and faucets. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
Memo's house all day long.
But going back to this article, I do like that listings jumped up by another 35%. You
Yeah.
know, having more inventory is just what's going to help the market kind of get back to its, normalcy.
Even little by little, like as long as we're moving forward, just
Little
like
by
inflation,
little.
little by little, slowing.
Because we talked about it, guys. We talked about how many homes, we're going to be in the market like by April, and we were way off.
Oh, super
So
off.
off.
Yeah.
We were way
No,
off.
you're right.
So,
and just to that, like that's how much we can be off, or anybody can be off in predictions. And these predictions weren't ours; they were from people that do this for a
Yeah.
living, economists that are looking at this data day in and day out.
Well, I think the 35% is just representative of what the demand currently is, and maybe still even less than that. It's not like now there's all of a sudden too much supply and prices are plummeting because it's not happening. So
Definitely not
even
that.
though the number is startling, 35% higher, that's amazing. That sounds like quite a bit. It is, but it's now just closer to where the demand level is at, and
Yeah.
the affordability is still because
Exactly.
you have enough people. You have enough people who can't afford to still absorb. I guess the word is absorb all that.
Yeah.
And it not drive prices down.
yeah. And I think, what was that? Like, it was something crazy. Like 87% of the consumer think it's a bad time to buy right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. It,
It
was
was
really
way up
high.
there.
I don't. Yeah. Where did we read that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
a
somewhere else
month back or
in
something
prep.
like that.
I was reading this. Like only 21% of people said now's a good time. And I'm like, oh, that's really
It's
bad.
less than
that's
that.
really bad.
Yeah.
So, well, you guys, what was the favorite part of your show today?
My favorite part is this last article. I'm glad that, we're seeing some type of getting some normalcy as far as, inventory. And I know here in San Diego, we need it. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's not an easy market out here right now.
Yeah, Brian.
I like in general, like all the topics from the articles, I feel like they're really starting to actually speak about what's happening and how it's happening and how consumers are really looking at things, and it's giving people an understanding of how the market's really behaving instead of listening it from like, you know, headline to headline. Before it was like, yeah, buy, but now it's like, yo, it's not a good time, and people are starting to see the realities, and I feel it's going to really help them make a better decision if it's a good time for them to move forward or not.
My favorite part of the show today is something you both make really great points about, which is the commercial real estate and its impact with residential. So Brian, you made a great point. We were talking about how people who are working at these places that are these buildings are shutting down, or maybe they're just working remote from home. That does impact the job. It impacts where they stay. And during the shutdown, a lot of people moved because their job got put remote permanently. They're like, oh, well, then I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to work from wherever I want now. It's got internet access.
Yeah.
So great point on that. And then your point about the converting of places like the malls and even some commercial buildings that are more suited towards residential. I think that's actually going to be something we're going to end up talking about going into the end of this year and into 2025 as I'll say people, the powers that be, people with money and developers decide how they're going to solve all the inventory problems. I think they're going to do it broadly by that. Yeah. We've already seen multi-unit property permits go up substantially, and I think this is going to be another chapter in that same story.
They're just going to make a whole bunch of Savitas everywhere.
No, there you go.
Dude, the Savita project.
Dude, that one is I'm amazed by it. Like I went last week. If you guys are in the San Diego area, just go take a trip and look at that. It's so futuristic. It's honestly so dope. I think it's a great. They did really good with it.
And that's it. Brian's moving to Savita.
There you go. Savita, here we come.
We have to do a show from Savita just to appease Brian.
Yeah.
So,
guys, we're finally here. Thank you so much for coming to
Savita.
Thank you guys for another great show. Thank you all for watching the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. Be sure to also check out our playlist, Friends of Mortgage Heroes, where Will, Brian, and myself interview our friends in and around real estate. We talk about success and failures and how you can learn from those things and make the most out of real estate and mortgage. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, forward this to a friend who needs to know about what's trending in real estate and how to help them win as well. Thank you guys for a great show, and we'll see you all again next week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.